Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to Rex, and this is Inside the Robotron, boat that rescued US Apache pilots. Watch out, AI Telly. Yeah, so I was kind of hoping AI Telly makes videos about this. He makes this animated style construction of what happens or what happened, whatever. And to me, it's really interesting because how did Shahid drone shot down Apache? That's something that doesn't make sense to me. Shahid drones are not that accurate, especially against something like Apache, which is like nimble, right? It's a helicopter. Maybe pilot messed up, somehow Shahid drone sneaked up. I don't know what happened. Let's hope AI has some info about that. So it's going to be interesting. Let's do this one.
Did Iran intentionally strike an Apache attack helicopter? And how did an autonomous boat pull off the rescue? In the fog of war, early reports claimed the chopper was shot down by a missile. But that wasn't the real story. On a pitch-black night in the Gulf of Oman, an Iranian drone rammed straight into the helicopter, with the wreckage supposedly lodging in its rotor blades. Miraculously, the drone's warhead failed to detonate. If the igniter had made full contact, the blast would have been catastrophic. Instead, the aircraft went down, leaving the two pilots stranded in the water. So, who saved them? In a historic first, the U.S.
There's the Nissan Skyline engine music. Okay, so it didn't detonate, so it could have gone much worse. See, I knew I could rely on AI Telly. I didn't know that.
Military sent an autonomous drone boat. Because the Gulf is heavily monitored by Iranian radar, a manned rescue chopper was too risky. It relies entirely on passive radar, meaning it doesn't emit signals that the enemy can track. No rescue helicopter. No human crew. Just two stranded pilots and a robot that brought them home. As darkness fell over the region at 11:33 GMT, on June 8, 2026, an AH-64E Apache attack helicopter assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division was patrolling near the Strait of Hormuz, just off the coast of Oman. Inside the cockpit were two U.S. Army aviators, a weapons system officer in the front seat and the pilot in the back. But what brought down this advanced gunship? According to reports, it wasn't a sophisticated surface-to-air missile. It was a low-cost Iranian Shahid drone. To understand how this crash happened, you have to look at the profile of the weapon involved. A typical Shahid kamikaze drone is essentially a slow-moving, low-flying cruise missile that relies on pre-programmed GPS coordinates. However, a larger variant like the Shahid 139, which closely resembles the American MQ-1 Predator, can be actively maneuvered by an operator to strike targets. Still, under normal circumstances, an Apache crew should be able to see a drone like that coming a mile away. Given that kamikaze drones aren't designed to dogfight agile aircraft, so how did one manage to hit an Apache?
Exactly. It's supposed to strike ground targets because they can't move, buildings and things. You can outmaneuver Apache with a 136 Shahid drones, right? This is calling it cruise missile. I mean, kinda, but it's a reach. Cruise missiles are much more sophisticated than that. This is very dumb in its way. It's like, what if you take a cruise missile and a glide bomb and combine them? That's probably this. So it's shooting down Apache. That's insane.
The prevailing theory is that the downing was entirely unintentional. The collision likely took out the rotor blades, instantly rendering the chopper completely unflyable. The airspace over the Strait of Hormuz is highly congested and incredibly dangerous. At the time of the incident, the helicopter was hovering low over the water. Operating at such low altitudes creates intense radar clutter from the water's surface, heavily masking incoming threats and interfering with early warning systems. As the Apache held its low hover, a Shahid drone like...
If that's the case, wouldn't that be showed in testing? And wouldn't that be a thing that Apache helicopter pilots know? Like, if we fly this low, no system's gonna work. So that's a big issue if that's the case.
En route to a separate target crossed its path, resulting in a catastrophic mid-air collision. Whether the drone was actively piloted to ram the helicopter, or if it was simply a deadly miscalculation during a harassment maneuver, is still under investigation. What is certain is the devastating result. Shahid drones carry massive explosive warheads, often weighing around 100 pounds. Had the payload fully detonated upon impact, the blast would have disintegrated the aircraft into pieces. At approximately 7:33 p.m. EDT, the crippled Apache plunged into the dark waters off the Omani coast. Interestingly, unlike Russian attack helicopters such as the Kamov Ka-50 and Kf-52, American Apaches do not have ejection seats. For context,
So Russian helicopter is better in that way, that it has ejection seat. Why does America not do it if that's the case? If Russia can do it, why America can't?
here's how a Russian helicopter actually ejects its pilots. The moment the system is triggered, explosive charges blow off the main rotor blades and the glass canopy in a split second. With the path clear, high-powered rockets instantly ignite, launching the ejection seats up and away to a safe distance. Instead, the crew is protected by energy-absorbing seats. These specialized seats are engineered to crush downward, absorbing massive amounts of kinetic energy in the event of a crash, to protect the pilot's spines. Thanks to this engineering and their own survival training, both pilots survived the violent impact and found themselves floating in one of the most hostile waterways on the planet. Rather than risking a traditional manned search and rescue helicopter or a Coast Guard cutter in an active threat zone, the Navy's Fifth Fleet made a historic decision. They deployed an autonomous drone boat. The vessel that answered the call wasn't a warship in any traditional sense. It was the Corsair, a sleek, low-riding, autonomous surface vessel that looked deceptively ordinary, but was about to make history. Designed for rugged, long-duration missions, the 24-foot Corsair can hit speeds over 35 knots and carry up to 1,000 pounds across 1,000 nautical miles. What made it the perfect extraction?
I like how he adds every single time this kind of like a music. What is it? 2-liter turbo music or something? Nissan Skyline basically, or Lancer Evo, whatever, pick one. Subaru, right? Subaru Impreza. That's what the sound is.
Vehicle on June 8 was its 360-degree passive sensing capability. Passive means it emits no detectable signal. It does not ping radar. It does not broadcast its position through active sonar. It navigates in the dark, sees everything around it, and remains electromagnetically silent. In an environment saturated with Iranian radar and drones actively monitoring the strait, the Corsair slipped through the water without painting a target on itself or the downed crew, navigating entirely autonomously toward the GPS coordinates broadcast by the pilot's survival gear. It found them in the black waters of the Gulf of Oman. No rescue crew was put at risk. There was no dramatic hoist in the threat zone, no diver in the water, and no manned vessel illuminated by searchlights for...
Yeah, it was just Waymo. Waymo taxi van there. Oh, your ride is here. That's what happened.
hostile radar to track. Using their own strength, the two aviators pulled themselves onto the drone boat's deck. The Corsair then silently transported the crew away from the crash site to safety on the water. This is where all hell broke loose. Less than 24 hours after the Apache plummeted into the dark waters of the Gulf, the U.S. military retaliated. On June 9, 2026, acting on direct orders from President Donald Trump, American forces launched a coordinated, overwhelming wave of self-defense airstrikes against Iran. The flight deck of the USS Abraham Lincoln, operating safely out in the Arabian Sea, became a deafening hive of activity. The operation commenced at 5:00 p.m. Eastern Time, shortly after midnight local time in Iran. This is Wave 1 blinding the coast. At exactly midnight, the offensive began, not with a...
Oh, I have a light out. Apparently it's back.
explosions, but with an invisible, paralyzing chaos. Before the first American strike fighters even crossed into Iranian airspace, Navy EA-18G Growlers unleashed a massive electronic assault, flooding the electromagnetic spectrum with intense jamming. As Iranian radar screens filled with static, the U.S. fired a volley of high-speed anti-radiation missiles. These weapons aggressively hunted down the emissions from coastal early warning radars, destroying the arrays and completely blinding the Iranian operators before they even knew what was coming. In Wave 2, the drone bunkers. At 1:15 a.m., with the skies successfully cleared of radar threats, the heavy hitters arrived. The airspace roared as strike packages moved in, armed with precision-guided bunker busters. Their targets were the heavily fortified ground control stations and storage facilities hidden along the coast, the exact locations where the deadly Shahed drones were housed, prepped, and piloted. In a matter of minutes,
I like he just didn't talk about Apache, but also what followed that, which was kind of very close to when he posted this video. CENTCOM briefed him, I guess.
the hardened infrastructure was absolutely obliterated. In Wave 3 air defense suppression, by 2:45 a.m. panic had set in on the ground. Iranian forces scrambled desperately to activate their secondary surface-to-air missile batteries in a last-ditch effort to protect whatever infrastructure remained. But the U.S. had anticipated this exact response. A final lethal wave of stealth fighters and standoff munitions swept through the darkness. They systematically dismantled the active air defense batteries, neutralizing the SAM sites before Iranian operators could even lock on to a target. And if you don't want your data to get compromised by spam mails, jump calls, and online breaches,
If you don't want data to be compromised by Iran and it's their SAM site, like, wait a minute. Yeah, Paul, go to original paging from there, support this channel, incognito. Yeah. Man, this is so insane. Like, one down Apache, and that's it. Like, all hell broke loose, right? More intense strikes are coming. Apparently, that's the official statement. And they already destroyed a lot of things in just past, 24 hours or so?
this data doesn't just protect your privacy by regular add-on with 50% off on an annual plan. But Iran has to send a message aimed straight at the heaviest concentrations of American military power across 3 different nations. First, Bahrain. Missile warning sirens wailed across the island as the IRGC unleashed a swarm of suicide drones. Their target: the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters, the absolute nerve center for American naval operations in the Middle East. Second, Kuwait. Total chaos in the skies. Kuwaiti air defenses had to scramble instantly to intercept incoming Iranian attacks, bearing down the Ali Al Salem Air Base, a massive hub for the U.S. Air Force. Third, the Jordanian military was forced to swat at least 5 incoming Iranian missiles and drones right out of the sky. We built every animation from scratch by real human.
Jordanian military did that, not US military. That's interesting. I mean, US bases are there. Usually what happens is Iran launches missiles at Israel. It goes through Iraq, Jordan. By that point, America has probably like intercepted it. What's left is intercepted by Israel with Iron Dome, David Sling, and all that. This time they launched a lot of drones. I guess they just have it. Iran just basically like, oh, there's some drones, throw them. There you go. Throw it there like Bahrain or whatever. So that's nothing new. US bombs Iran, Iran bombs everybody else but US because they can't. There you go. But this was insane, man. So drone probably literally jammed into like the rotors and didn't even explode. That's an information I didn't have. Like, talking about luck, man, ocean is big. The area is much bigger. Now, Apache flying and a drone hitting literally there, it must be accident. You can't really target a helicopter like that. But like he said, it could be 139, which you can, like a Reaper, you can actually control. But even then, isn't that kind of like a waste of a drone trying to just ram into an Apache? You guys will just replace Apache. How many 139s does Iran have? I mean, come on. Well, there you go. If you like my channel, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.